Hello, Patreon. I have painted you a picture. I hope you're going to like it. I think that you will, but you might not. Anyhow, I painted the picture and I'm going to answer your questions. So, this is a pretty boring intro. Let's get into it.
Alrighty, it's time to get to your questions. I'm very excited to answer them. I'll start with the questions asked on Patreon first, and then I'll move over to the ones on TikTok. Okay, let's get into it. So, from Cheyenne Oliver, sorry if I missing anybody's names. Also, these are all usernames, and usernames, especially by Gen Zers and millennials, just make no sense, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. How long is the scarf now? The scarf is double the height of me, and I am a painfully average 5'5", so it is probably around 11 to 12 feet long. So we're just going to keep going with it. I also have a bunch of backup yarn that I have collected over the years of thrifting or having been gifted a bunch of different yarn, and so I think I'm just going to keep going inevitably until I make the world's longest scarf. I'm glad that you all are along on their journey of this insane scarf with me. Okay, moving on to Stuntin' P. What a username. So their question is, have you told the neighbor, or are you going to tell him that you could hear him tell all his dates about his grandma? Has he tried telling you this story yet? Before I answer this question, I do just want to preface, I'm going to answer as many questions about the neighbor as possible because, of course, that's where mostly everybody's questions lie, which makes total sense. I don't want to reveal any new information, only because this is like a very concentrated group of people on the Patreon, and I don't know. I just want to, I'm also in the middle of telling the story, so I don't want to ruin a bunch of things. So if I don't answer all of these questions or hedge around the information in a way that you didn't want, it's just because we're in the middle of a story and sometimes you gotta wait for things. But eventually, the neighbor and I will have a conversation. He has not told me anything about his grandmother, and I am not at the point in the middle of the story where I'm at in the timeline of the story for me to be asking him about such things. Will something come up about that in time? Yes, and I promise that you all will probably really think it's funny and fantastic, and is definitely, I think, a twist of a turn. So in other words, where I'm at in the story that I'm telling you all right now, no, we've not had to have a conversation about it. Do we eventually? Yes, because timelines. Also, I don't know if you hear the 17 million different church bells going on right now. In the small town, the churches are like all 1 to 2 minutes behind each other. So I'm sorry if you're picking a bunch of crap up from the background. Okay. So A. Walker, who asks a lot of questions. Thank you, A. Walker. What is your favorite book from childhood? Do you still love it? This is a very good question. So a little tidbit of my childhood for you all. My parents didn't read to me at all when I was a little kid, like at all. So my first thought, because I read to my kiddo all the time, and he has his favorite picture books and stuff like that, I can't even think of a picture book that I was read even once. Like, I didn't have exposure to Goodnight Moon until I started reading to my own kid. And so a lot of these like very developmental books that people love and adore, I am just now coming into contact with them because of my own child. Now, I think probably my favorite book from childhood was Harry Potter. And do I still love it? Absolutely, I do. I started reading the first book when I was really young because I was homeschooled. And whenever you're homeschooled, I feel like there's a correlation between when you start reading books way beyond your reading level. It just is what it is. And I do still love that book. I am fully aware of the controversies around the author and turf and feminism and how that interacts and how damaging it is to those within the community. So I listen to the audiobooks and I read the books, and I'll definitely, show the kiddo the books when he's old enough, and also be having the conversation about making your own decisions based on authors who are currently alive, and if you want to engage in their work, if they have done harmful things, or if you do not want to engage, however people choose to go about that, absolutely go off. But yes, I do still love those. I still watch the movies. I listen to the audiobooks narrated by Jim Dale all of the time, and I'm also constantly aware of how sad it is that so many of us who Harry Potter was sort of, I mean, for me and my friends, it was sort of the book that encouraged us to be ourselves and had pretty positive representations of what that could look like. And then that sort of getting ripped out from under us. We saw a hero fall off their pedestal, and it was a tough one. Anyhow, Okay, A. Walker says, okay, nobody else is asking questions, so I'm going to. Does the neighbor have a car? Why are you guys always riding around in the Soul? This is another great question. So, the neighbor is from New York, and he has been down here for a while on different acting contracts, and he traveled down here and everything was paid for by the company that he was working with. And so no, he doesn't have a car in town, and that's actually really common in this particular town with the theater that's here. You get really long contracts at the theater, and a lot of it is from people from LA or New York or Maine, and nobody wants to drive their cars down here, or some of them, especially from, I mean, I feel like New Yorkers just don't have cars. Why would you have a car? I can't imagine driving in New York is fun. So, no, the neighbor does not have a car. That is why we are always driving around in the Kia Soul. And I'm sure a follow-up question to that is, well, then how does he get around to places? The theater that he works for and that I have also worked for in the past, they provide company vehicles for their actors and such who are coming in out of town, which is, again, really common practice for regional theaters or theaters with extremely long contracts. And by extremely long, it's not just one season, it's multiple seasons. Which goes into the next question. How is it possible that you live in a small town, you and the neighbor are both actors, and you didn't know he was an actor? How many places have working actors in one small town? Okay, another great question. So again, there are some seasons where I am employed in the theater and work there for 6 to 8 months and then have 3 to 4 months off depending on the seasonal rotation. And when he first came in, he was not working at that theater. He was working at a different theater. And the small town where we're sort of like a hub. So 40 minutes in all directions from here have professional theaters. So it's really easy for you to be in the professional theater circuit and just not have known of each other until you end up accidentally working at the same theater. Yeah, I hope that answers that question, but it makes total sense why that would be a question. Sun or moon? Sun. My name is Summer. I love the sun. I was born on the last day of summer in the year that I was born, so I am absolutely a sun person, but I do love the moon. Absolutely. Okay, so that is the end of the questions on Patreon. I'm going to move over to the TikTok questions now. Okay, so the first one that I'm seeing, do the neighbor and Fun Sakai know about your TikTok? Not that I know of. I know that they know that I have one. And I have told the neighbor that I document a lot of my life and that I'm a storyteller, and it doesn't seem like he has any qualms about that and or interest in like engaging with the platform, not in a way that's like, oh, I don't want to support that endeavor. It's just he's on different platforms than I am. He was more of a Twitter person and I am more of a TikTok person. I hate Twitter. I don't think he likes the interface of TikTok, and so I don't think that either of them do. I don't know, and if they do, I do not know that they watch any type of videos. Hannah asks, do you like musical theater? If so, what are your favorite shows? I love musical theater. I came from the land of musical theater before I got my master's in Shakespeare and performance. So I went to undergrad and I majored in psychology, and I actually went to a master's program for mental health, clinical mental health counseling, but I dropped out. That's a whole other story. Anyhow, yes, I love musical theater. I studied it in undergrad once I started taking vocal classes. And my favorite shows, I'm sorry, but I do love Phantom of the Opera. It was my sexual awakening when I was like 9 years old when I saw Gerard Butler through the window, and boy, howdy, did it begin my problematic relationship with loving morally gray people / villains in most literature that I ingest. I also love The Secret Garden. I feel like that's a slept-on musical, but I'm really glad lately that it seems like it's getting a re-up. I know that like Sierra Boggess and Ben Platt were in a concert version of that along with some other amazing stars. And yeah, I love those two. I'm a big musical theater person. I also Bridges of Madison County, very good. I'm trying to think of others. I don't know. I'm a lover of musical theater. A musical theater show that I don't really like, which is not a popular opinion, but I'm not a huge fan of. I don't even know if I can remember it. It was the one with Ben Platt. Anyways, I can't remember it. Oh well, Waving Through the Window, that show. Never mind. We're going on to a different one. I'm starting to ADHD ramble. What is your favorite Shakespeare play? This is asked by Going Places 247, and I hope you go to 247 different places. My favorite Shakespeare play is very difficult for me to answer only because I have been studying them all for so many years, and every single time that I do a play, I direct a play, which I don't do that often, or I teach a play. Anytime I'm in the work, I fall in love with new different parts of plays that I hadn't really experienced before. And so this is kind of a difficult question for me to answer. So I'm going to come at it from a different angle in that what is a Shakespeare play that I think everybody should see? And I think everybody should see A Midsummer Night's Dream and Much Ado About Nothing. And for two reasons for each of these. I think Much Ado About Nothing is objectively one of the greatest plays of all time, only because it is sans the political and religious structure of a lot of early modern literature and even modern literature. It's just people existing within a space and bantering with each other, and it's very funny, and it's also extremely heartbreaking and grappling with nuanced tragedy in the light of comedy and love, I think is really specifically beautiful. So it is human and it is comedic, and I think that those are more than two reasons, but Much Ado About Nothing is absolutely up there. And then A Midsummer Night's Dream, it is the fantasy realm of Shakespeare. If you love fantasy, if you love Lord of the Rings, if you love language, if you love the potential to make things really dark and eerie and problematic, A Midsummer Night's Dream is such a playground, literally. You have fairy wars and you have comedians, and it also, I really like plays where there's different types of ensemble situations. So you can kind of have these different worlds, almost like Love Actually, but it's Shakespeare. And I think that's really special because you have the lovers, and then you have the fairies, and then you have the mechanicals, and then you have the court, and all four of those worlds end up interlacing at the end. And I just think it's a fantastic work of literature and spans so many different genres, while also, again, giving the actor and the director a malleable show in which to highlight, oh, there are some problematic issues within this lover's trope, or, oh, the way in which motherhood is talked about between the fairies is a greater commentary on larger things in life. So much potential there. So those two. Okay, Rowan. Rowan asks, oh, Rowan's question's really kind. How do you get your hair to look like that? It's so gorgeous. Thank you, Rowan. That's very nice. My hair, I have cut it by myself for the last 5 years, 5 or 6 years of my life. I wish I could say the pandemic made me stop going to my hairstylist, but it didn't. I just have always been really hyper fixated on my hair because I've always wanted it to be long. I have a very specific way in which I like it to look, and that I like it to look kind of disheveled. And whenever I went to salons, it looked too perfect. And so, yeah, I cut my own bangs and I just sort of go with the wind. I have a curling wand that sometimes I use, but also my hair's really wavy and poofy in the summer. And so sometimes I just encourage that along and hope for the best. It's different every single day. I can never recreate the same hairstyle. One time I was in a show and they were like, okay, we're going to do a hair run. And I was like, there's no point in doing that. Of course you can do that, but it is a waste of your time, and time is money. So therefore it's fiscally an exercise of futility. Nobody listened to me, and then my hair did absolutely look different on opening night than it did in the hair run. Okay, Megan asks, do you sell prints? I love all of those, talking about art prints. I do sell prints. They're live on my website, and you can check those out. I also upload prints on my Patreon, and I'm also going to start sending out free downloadable prints through my newsletter that you can sign up for in my Linktree. Person with Pets asks, did we finish the ACOTAR series? No, we have not finished the ACOTAR series. I just finished the little novella I am forgetting the name of it because I believe it to be the most forgettable piece of fiction I may have ever ingested. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but mostly that entire book felt like family planning around Christmas and Nesta's alcoholism. I do not know why it was there other than giving Farah and Rhysand lovers just one more bit of that couple before we sort of switched into Nesta full mode. I did just start A Court of Silver Flames. I think I might like this book the most, and it is because I love Nesta. I love Nesta so much. I know that that is an unpopular opinion, but I love Nesta and I love Cassian, however people say his names. I have switched audiobook narrators 3 times now, and they all say his name specifically, different. So anyways, I have begun the last book in the series that is currently out, and I am liking it. I am wondering if I'm going to think it's better than A Court of Mist and Fury, or Mist of Fury, or whatever. We'll see. Okay, Sebastian, did you ever find out what the story about his grandma really was? I answered this earlier. Okay. Shiakro, what's your fave chore on the farm if you have one? Oh, my farm job. Okay. Also, for those of you who are following along in the farm diaries, my last day at the farm was yesterday. And I was working the farmers market for them. But I worked through the end of May, all through June, all through July, and now we are into a different season, and I also had to step away from music directing and writing things and such, which is very exciting, and I'll have more updates on that later. Anyhow, I'm rambling. My favorite chore on the farm, I love seeding. So seeding is so meticulous, and you go into the greenhouse and you're there for 5 or 6 hours, and I would seed 5,000 to 6,000 different plants and things. But what was really cool was when I first got there, the first few weeks I was there, I seeded and I weeded, and I loved both of those things. And then by the end of my time there, the 5,000 to 6,000 things that I had seeded in the greenhouse, I got to harvest them. And that was such a cool full cycle experience. I got to plant them on the back of this crazy tractor thing that felt like I was hanging off the side of my life. So yeah, I love seeding. It actually inspired me to write, because I'm perpetually writing prologues, a little prologue of like a seedling queen, and she's the queen of the greenhouse, and it's this whole thing. Maybe I'll tell you more about it later. But Sonia asks, "You're very much giving Lorelai from Gilmore Girls. May I please be friends with you?" Sure, you can. I'm perpetually bad at texting back. If I don't write things in my planner, I will forget that they exist, including sometimes me and sometimes my kiddo. I am not lying about that. So yeah, you can, but swim at your own risk sort of situation. But yes, I love having friends, and I love hearing people's stories, and I'm sure I would love to hear your story, Sonia. Crafting with Brenna. So, timeline-wise, Neighbor has already moved, ? Since you posted the first video a year after the drafts. Again, some of this stuff you all will find out. Is there a move planned at the end of this year? Yes. You will get details all in good time. Okay. Ashley Casper, top 5 feel-good movies. Ooh, I'm so excited to answer this question. Ooh, okay. So my number 1 favorite movie of all time is Ratatouille. It is objectively just one of the better pieces of cinematography, I have to say. But in a close second, it's When Harry Met Sally. I watched When Harry Met Sally as I was painting this thing that you are literally watching right now. If I take this audio off, you can hear When Harry Met Sally in the background. It is my go-to comfort movie. So I would think technically in the 5 feel-good movies, When Harry Met Sally would take the number 1 spot, even though Ratatouille is my all-time favorite movie. Yes, When Harry Met Sally, we've got the seasons, we've got fall, we've got fashion, we've got Billy Crystal serving in that movie. I'm so sorry, his little legs, ooh, skedaddle all around me. Gracious. After that, Practical Magic. Absolutely love Practical Magic. My sister and I like to say that we have and had a Practical Magic childhood because we were so similar to Sally and Jilly growing up, and when we watched the movie when we were older, we were like, oh my God, that's us. Oh, wow. So that would be number 3. Number 4 is Pride and Prejudice, 2005. Absolutely. No tea, no shade on the BBC series. I also love the BBC series. But the thing about the BBC series is I don't particularly think anybody's cute in that. And I know that you can come for me and saying that Colin Firth is so hot in that. Sure, I can't get past the mutton chops. I can't get past the mutton chops. I can't get past the mutton chops. And then after that is going to be Sense and Sensibility. Now, honestly, these were in no particular order, because if I had to do them in a particular order, probably Sense and Sensibility might be second or third. I love Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson. I think it is so amazing. I think the acting is fantastic. Also, I went on such a deep dive because I'm an Emma Thompson head. I love Emma Thompson. And she was in the midst of a depression because, a train just honked in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. Anyhow, she was in a depression because her husband had left her for Helena Bonham Carter, the tea. But then she fell in love with Willoughby on that set. Ugh, I love it. So those are my top 5. So I don't remember what I said. When Harry Met Sally, Ratatouille, Practical Magic, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice. Yes. All right. And then a question from BioSuite. Did you add the details to your vest or did it come that way? No. I thrifted it. I thrift everything in my life. If you ever have a question if I've embroidered anything, no. It's my final frontier. Sewing is my final frontier because I don't know how to do it, and I don't know how to do it because I'm so bad at math. I'm dyslexic with numbers. Like they jumble up in my head. It just doesn't make any sense to me, quite literally. And so sewing feels like an impossible thing for me to do. And there's this situation of inside out and looks like hell to me, but I want to do it. A misanthropy asks, tell me how to live a beautiful life. Oh no, that's such a big question. I think the one thing that I have learned in my short stint on Earth is to obliterate the idea of cringe from your lexicon. Grab the universe by the balls and just do the goddamn thing. I've seen so many people hedge their bets and their dreams at the thought of somebody perceiving them as somebody who's doing something cringy or embarrassing. And I have only ever seen it dilute somebody and never make them stronger or better because people's perceptions, there's no way to control them. And also they can go to hell. Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? So have fun. Grab the universe by its balls. Absolve the word cringe from your lexicon and just go for it. And if people look at you sideways, the worst thing they can do is look at you sideways. Jane So Plain. Besides freezing, what's your reaction to being afraid? Ooh, this is a good question. So I typically freeze when it has anything to do in regards to relationships or love, or when there's some type of tension there, but I'm not quite sure what it is. I don't know. Those are very specific freeze responses. I would say the other times when I am afraid, I laugh so hard, so badly. Every single funeral I've ever been to, even when it's somebody that I have known and loved, I am laughing so hard because I'm afraid that people are sad. I don't even know if it's fear as much as it's like a tumult of emotions. And my other fear response is that I believe that sometimes I'm ready to fight. So like this last week in a park, I did get into a skirmish of wits with this old man who was being extremely rude to an older woman passing by, and I was scared for her. When I'm scared for other people, I'm about to be fighty. I'm like, oh great, we're gonna take down. When I am nervous for myself, I do a freeze response or I laugh. Okay, Bakamek? These usernames, what are y'all doing? Okay, they ask, what's your kid's favorite color? This is a great question because it does change every day. I think the one that has statically been enveloped into his groups of favorite colors when he changes them is blue. He loves a blue and he loves a red. He especially loves red in dresses. He loves to have red dresses. And he also loves pink and purple. Okay. And Mia26829 asks, what's your favorite male and female character in ACOTAR? Ooh, well, I think why I like A Court of Silver Flame so much is because my favorite male, it's a toss-up between Azriel and Cassian, and then my favorite female character is Nesta, and it's not particularly close. Morrigan is pretty close behind that, and I like Farah, but I think that I'm so invested in Nesta's storyline because she's so complicated and difficult to deal with and unwieldy on the page, and I like that as a reader. I feel like this character is unwieldy and steely. I can feel that, and I love that. All right. So I think that's the end of the questions that I can see. Anyhow, I hope this was fun and cozy for you all, and I hope you enjoyed the picture. I will be uploading that download soon. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was super fun. So if you all liked it, let me know, and I'm happy to make another one, and maybe a themed one or an autumnal one or what have you. Anyhow, thanks for being here. You can sign up for my newsletter in one of my link trees on one of my different platforms. And again, thanks for being here. Love you all. Bye.